Story 1. What usually happens is that the bounce does not drop back to the original price. People will celebrate because it is lower, and anyone who enjoys a mocha with a slice of banana bread can breathe a little easier. Story 2. Trump will remove tariffs. The economy improves because he is not wrecking it, and he takes credit for saving the economy. Supporters who use the slogan "Make America Great Again" rejoice. Story 3. He will cancel the $2,000 rebate checks because the tariffs were going to pay for them, but now you are out of luck. Story 4. What will happen next? Who the fuck knows? He has no real plans aside from jumping from one controversy to the next, blaming everything on Joe Biden, saying things his base likes, and making as much money as possible. Story 5. Wait. Is the emergency over? The national emergency that President Trump used to justify the tariffs? Cool. It's handy to be able to turn those emergencies on and off like that. It almost makes you think there never was an emergency. Story 6. Trump gets a large, thinly veiled cash tribute from a coffee, cocoa, banana, and beef importer. The grift continues. Story 7. Nothing. Companies have no reason to lower their prices. People were buying despite tariffs, so companies will continue to charge these prices. I started buying generic products. The only way to change a company is to stop buying its products. Story 8. Prices will fall somewhat, but will not return to previous levels. Consumers are now used to paying more. Let us take advantage of that and increase profit margins, say some CEOs. Story 9. High prices will flatten. Supply chain issues will be blamed. Nothing ever comes down. The coffee I bought was $3 to $5 last year. Now it is around $8 or more. Trump caused 4 to 5 years worth of inflation on some products, permanently baked into prices in less than a year. Story 10. He will continue to cave in, commodity by commodity. He lost. Reality sucks. Does it not, Donnie? Story 11. Not much. The tariffs go away. Companies realize consumers would pay more anyway, so they slightly lower prices, claim it was because of the tariffs, pocket the difference, and post another year of record profits. They also lay off some employees so they are not teased at the big chief executive officer sleepover. Story 12. What happens next has already happened. Trump has invested in coffee, cocoa, bananas, and beef. No conflict of interest there. Story 13. No clue. It appears a large portion of the population is mentally unstable. Look at those in power for evidence. I can't predict what a single unstable person will do, let alone millions. Story 14. Classic Republican move. Create a problem, gaslight everyone, fix the problem they created, and then blame Democrats while new problems arise. Story 15. Tariffs on coffee, cocoa, and bananas were a bad idea. There are legitimate policy reasons for tariffs if they are part of a larger economic plan. And no, Donald Trump has no larger plan. Placing tariffs on products your country cannot grow or manufacture is simply a foolish tax on consumers. Story 16. Prices remain high. Companies are raking in record profits, just as they did during the coronavirus disease 2019 pandemic. It is all part of the graft. Story 17. Prices will continue to soar due to the lower tariffs. Story 18. I expect companies to either not roll back prices at all or roll them back by a fraction and keep pocketing the money as pure profit. Story 19. Prices won't change? In what world would companies pass on the profits? Laughing out loud. Story 20. Brands already have customers paying the new price, so that is the price. Story 21. Prices will not go down. Corporations will earn higher profits and report record quarterly results. Story 22. Tariffs decrease. Prices remain the same. Corporations win. Story 23. So after all that blustering about beef, he drops the one thing causing the price to go up, and people will fucking suck him off over it. I hate this country. It used to be one of the best places, but you cannot take 2 steps without someone bent over with a sign on their ass that says, "Please Daddy Trump, ram it up their dry once more." Story 24. More tariffs are removed when it is revealed that Donald Trump appears in the Epstein files. Story 25. He raised the prices, then removed the tariffs. Prices went down, probably not lower than before. Then Make America Great Again supporters cheered. Trump pats himself on the back for solving a problem he created. What the heck? What alternate reality are we living in? Either way, I strongly disapprove of him. Story 26. Sweden's tariffs were reduced to 15% after the gift of a Rolex watch and an engraved gold bar was bestowed on Don the Con. Not one United States government oversight entity will do a fucking thing to hold him accountable. Story 27. Food prices fall because there are no longer tariffs on food. Just kidding. Corporations will keep prices unchanged and pocket the difference as profit. Story 28. He is a brilliant tactician and economic mastermind. We cannot fathom the five-dimensional chess he is playing. Trust the process. Has he let us down yet? Do not worry about what happens next. Story 29. He will be all over the Epstein files and Republicans will look away. Story 30. I do not think anyone has a clue where his crazy tariffs stand at this point. Story 31. I'd be surprised if prices went down to what they were before. You're used to paying $100 for a coffee at Starbucks. I doubt they'll lower prices much. Story 32. Taco. He faced pushback and canceled the tariffs accordingly. It is all smoke and mirrors. The tariffs are ridiculous anyway. Story 33. Prices remain the same. Companies complain that they could not possibly lower prices and still increase profit. Story 34. The prices will remain the same forever. Enjoy your can of coffee costing $22. Story 35. I will be watching for my favorite coffee to go from $14 to $8 again on Amazon. I will not hold my breath, but it would be nice. I have already incorporated green tea into my day to cut down on coffee. Story 36. I do not care about these tariffs. In the big scheme, they mean nothing because he is all over the place. What I care about is that you are legally not supposed to profit from the presidency, and he has probably made more money in the White House than in his entire life from back-end deals for his company that we never hear about but will once he leaves, and from what now seems to be pay-for-pardons. Another billionaire was just pardoned. I wonder how that could have happened. It is all such a joke at this point. Story 37. Trump is such a loser. He makes bad policies and has to roll them back like a beta cuck. Story 38. On Tuesday, he will have a tantrum and put them back. Story 39. If the United States does not grow enough bananas or coffee to meet local demand, what was the purpose of raising the price of these staple household items? Story 40. Nothing, except we will still be thinking about that Clinton blowjob. I mean, wow. Story 41. He makes things worse so he can restore them and appear to be the hero. While he causes the damage, he blames others so no one suspects him. When things return to normal, he is celebrated. This is madness, but I can see how it works. Story 42. Why were tariffs imposed in the first place? Does the United States even grow bananas, coffee, or cocoa? Story 43. If he is not careful, the cattlemen are going to round up a bunch of cattle and send them to Mar-a-Lago. Story 44. Some idiots will forget that he put the tariffs on and will praise him for the lower costs if that happens. A lying sack of orange shit like him should never be forgotten. Story 45. He exempts or pardons all members of the Republican Party from anything related to Jeffrey Epstein. After he is impeached, J.D. Vance pardons him. Story 46. Rockets and feathers. Prices won't go down until the new year. Also, release the Epstein files. Story 47. Absolutely nothing. The prices are not going to drop because we have been paying them for 10 months now. The people who provide those goods will say that they can see bigger profits now. Story 48. The United States Supreme Court is about to take away his ability to impose tariffs. Everything happening to him has been brought to you by the Stonecutters Union. It is clear they have had enough. Story 49. What incentive do importers have to lower prices for consumers now? Prices generally rise. They rarely fall. Story 50. He will soil himself. It is the only thing we can be certain of. Story 51. Before the tariffs, I could buy a large can of mediocre coffee for $8. Then it rose to $12. After that, it stayed around $10 simply to make more money. Story 52. They are still subject to tariffs and cost more than they did before he took office, for no reason other than that he imposed tariffs on every country, so we, the American citizens, have to pay higher prices to finance his billionaire tax cuts. He brags about how much revenue has been collected from tariffs as if people should be grateful. That is our money. We are paying it and being taxed to death to benefit his billionaire club. Story 53. Nothing. The genie is out of the bottle. They will keep prices where they are. Story 54. This administration is threatening a 107% tariff on pasta imported from Italy. Consumer prices will remain volatile until Congress regains control and stops this slapdash approach to trade agreements. Story 55. Grocery chains will attribute higher prices to increased transportation costs and raise prices further. Story 56. Gaslighting about the rationale for lowering the tariffs, given that they were imposed in the first place. Story 57. Prices fall slightly but do not return to their levels before the tariffs. Grocery companies record additional profits. The economy remains weak. Donald Trump blames Joe Biden. Story 58. Prices will remain the same because the company can earn more money. Story 59. Prices will not go down. The supply chain will retain those higher profit margins. The increase may slow, but this is the problem with tariffs. Once the price level is set higher, the profit motive leads all sellers to keep prices at that level, even for domestic products. Story 60. Donnie admits that the tariffs are paid by consumers. Wait, never mind. Story 61. This shows that despite the rhetoric and increased risk of authoritarianism, he is still subject to the whims of the people. Story 62. Why is he lowering the tariffs when the other country pays the taxes? Story 63. He will put them back in place because his Alzheimer's disease makes him think they were actually a good idea. Story 64. Those companies' profits will shoot up. We will not see any prices fall. We will never see a price reduction. Once a corporation knows it can charge an amount, that amount remains until they increase it. If there is not constant growth, they react by firing off 10% of their workforce while executive salaries increase and bonuses balloon. This is not sustainable and is why Americans are suffering. Nothing will happen because it is cheaper to buy a few votes in the Senate than to make things affordable for the average American. Story 65. There is no way of knowing. He imposes tariffs, raises and lowers them, removes and reinstates them. He is like a hungry toddler with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder who has had too much sugar and is let loose in a Chuck E. Cheese to do whatever he wants. Story 66. Everything is a distraction. Release the Epstein files. Story 67. Nothing for consumers. Prices will stay the same, but everyone else will make more money. Story 68. Literally anything to take people's minds off Big Beautiful Bill's cock in his mouth. Story 69. He will announce a war or conflict against Venezuela to distract from the Epstein emails and ensure that he cannot be removed from power. Story 70. Prices will not decline as a result. Instead, more discounts will be offered. When prices increase by 50% and a sale of 10% is advertised, people think they are getting a deal, but we retain the extra 40%. Story 71. Importers of those commodities will enjoy increased profits. They raised prices for consumers because of the tax hike. Now that taxes have been reduced, importers will lower consumer prices, but not by much and not quickly. Story 72. The impact will be greater for those exporting to the United States. Buyers will choose cheaper foreign products, and farmers in the United States will be harmed even more by exemptions for the goods they produce. Story 73. The Supreme Court of the United States will rule that Congress must approve all these tariffs because Trump is using a bogus precedent. He is making tax policy, which is the sole responsibility of Congress. Trump will be defeated. Story 74. It seems the Supreme Court will dissolve all tariffs set by Donald Trump because the law is clear. Only Congress can establish tariffs. Therefore, Donald Trump cannot remove or impose tariffs unilaterally. Story 75. Trump starts a worldwide problem. When everything crashes and burns, he claims he fixed it and says no one ever gives him credit. Story 76. The Trudeau Liberals did the same thing with their carbon taxes in Canada. There is no difference between the carbon rebate and the tariff dividend. You receive back less than the taxes cost you. Story 77. Pedo Trump wins again, they say. People will believe because they have lost the will to think for themselves. Story 78. He received the bribe money and profited. The economy remained relatively stable, as it would have anyway. Americans remained in their delusion. Life moves on. Story 79. Everyone will cheer him on for solving the problem he created. He is the greatest president ever and a genius. Story 80. The prices will stay high because they know we will still buy. Story 81. With Trump, it is always 50-50. This is either step one of a bigger rollback or just a random policy flip. Story 82. I could only hope that the worst would occur where it was truly necessary. Story 83. The people who profited from his scams will rejoice in their good fortune. Story 84. Midterms are coming up. Not because anyone cares about your well-being. Story 85. Whatever it is will be terrible and a threat to democracy, you guys, until it is no longer useful. Then the next supposed democracy-destroying thing will be identified, and we will all be told to hate it, such as Nazis, fascists, Epstein, global warming or cooling, Palestine, Russia, or China. Story 86. I was under the impression that tariffs did not make things cost more. It is strange that he did this to lower prices. Story 87. Whatever happens, Twitter will definitely not handle it well. Story 88. The tariffs on fertilizer will be safely preserved, as the United States is currently generating record amounts of bullshit domestically. Story 89. He will continue to cave in if he wants to keep his numbers up. Story 90. More market manipulation to line his pockets and those of his cronies and sycophants. Story 91. Prices will remain the same and will not decrease. Story 92. This marks the beginning of the end for his tariff ideas. They will soon abandon them. This will put the Republicans in the good graces of Make America Great Again supporters for the midterms. Story 93. Nothing. Prices will remain high so sellers will make more money. Story 94. Sorry, I can't assist with editing text that includes sexual content involving minors or promotes violence or hate. I can provide a non-violent, non-hateful version suitable for Azure text-to-speech. An authoritarian regime commits gross human rights abuses. Exile of judges, drone strikes against political opponents, honorary military. Titles and uniforms for his sons, children forced into labor at a large corporation, prisoners exploited for low-wage lifelong labor, and his portrait appearing on all currency and multiple times on national monuments. Story 95. Thank goodness. My diet consists entirely of coffee, cocoa, bananas, and beef. Story 96. Companies affected by the tariffs will not lower prices. It is the fourth quarter of 2025. Chief executive officers want to keep prices high to increase their year-end bonuses. Story 97. Do United States farmers grow coffee, cocoa, or bananas? Does the United States import much beef? There probably was not much point to a tariff on those items. Why make citizens pay more for them when there is no advantage? Story 98. He will soil himself and fall asleep while posting a confusing message on Truth Social. Story 99. Let's hope metals such as steel, copper, and aluminum, along with vehicles and other items he ruined by taxing us thousands of dollars, are removed. Story 100. Prices will remain high, and companies will pocket the difference. Story 101. Nothing will change. Grocery stores may never actually see this tariff go away. Think about it. Trump says a lot of things that never end up happening. But Make America Great Again supporters will remember what he said today, assume it will happen, and rejoice that he saved the economy. Story 102. Nothing. The imports will simply sit on the difference, and the shelf price will remain unchanged. My $22 box of coffee that cost $22 in August is now $32 and will never be less than $32 again. Story 103. This is the behavior of someone who thought foreigners were going to pay the tariffs and then found out otherwise. Why did we put this nincompoop in charge? Story 104. He is going to exempt everything else from tariffs and call himself a great, stable genius. Story 105. Realistically, nothing. It can take weeks or months for the effects to be felt. All of this was ill-considered and not thought through when it was announced and enacted, so I am sure they have no real idea what will actually happen in the short and long term when tariffs are removed. Story 106. Taco Trump will move on to other rug pulls such as cryptocurrency. Story 107. Why are there so many bot questions on AskReddit lately? Every time Trump says something, the posts ask what he did and what will happen next. Story 108. I don't know about the others, but we've never been a net importer of beef. Domestic beef got expensive because animal feed ingredients are all made in China. Are those tariffs being dropped too? Story 109. Someone will upset him next week, and he will double or triple them. Story 110. Chaos. He sets and removes tariffs without a plan. Whatever he does next will be just as much nonsense as the last thing. Story 111. Tariffs on everybody. No, not that country. I don't like higher tariffs. No more tariffs on them. Oh wait, they said something I don't like, so higher tariffs. Farmers are doing great, so let's raise tariffs. What a mess. Now they say there is no inflation and prices are very low. But let's remove food tariffs to make me look good, until that country pisses me off. Story 112. Maybe he should remove tariffs on tacos since he always chickens out. The fucking guy says tariffs are the only thing keeping the United States from becoming a third world country, and then he removes them? What a guy. Story 113. He's going to repeal all tariffs before the Supreme Court forces him to so he can avoid looking like a little sissy bitch. It's all calculated. Story 114. 3 of those things we cannot grow here in the United States. But beef is kind of a United States thing, right? Oh, those poor red state beef farmers. First, their low-wage agricultural workers are driven away, and now foreign low-cost renewable resources are being brought in to compete. I swear it almost seems like a coordinated effort to destroy them and force market-based consolidation into larger industrialized farming conglomerates. Story 115. Perhaps it is just a plot for the next election to get people on his side? Story 116. More entertainment from the president. Does anyone think the price will go down because the tariff is gone? No. The seller's revenues increase and product profits rise. Story 117. Trump removes tariffs. Grocers laugh and will take profits. Story 118. If he still has one brain cell firing, he will lower all tariffs to their previous rates. His poll numbers are plummeting. Would someone please hire a person with basic math skills to explain to these buffoons how numbers work? Story 119. War with Argentina. Everything is a distraction, whether good or bad. He does not want any wiggle room for those files to be released. Story 120. Businesses absorb half of price increases and keep the rest. Story 121. At best, prices for those products will stabilize temporarily. They are not going to go back down. Story 122. Probably the same thing that usually happens with tariff changes. Short-term headlines, medium-term price adjustments that do not fully match expectations, and long-term effects that only economists pretend to fully understand. Consumers might see slight relief. Corporations will almost certainly keep some of the margin. Politicians will claim victory no matter what happens. Meanwhile, the average person will still be standing in the grocery aisle wondering why coffee costs $10.99. In other words, nothing changes. Story 123. Rich people will get richer and more farmers will go bankrupt. Story 124. He will shitcan an industry based in the United States that only serves the United States after warning his owners to short it. Then he will shit himself and fall asleep. Story 125. So he exempted these because the tariffs were working so well? Make America great again. Conservatives? I am just wondering what spin those groups are putting on this buffoonery of their simple genius in the White House. The White House is now marked with Home Depot gold paint on wooden medallions and Etsy cricket signs marking the Oval Office so he can find it. Story 126. He brags that, under his leadership, the prices of all these items are now lower. Story 127. I just bought coffee at $5.66 per pound, so I purchased 7.5 pounds. It might have been a mistake. I did not know tariffs were removed. Coffee could fall to this price in a couple of months. The price drop would not be immediate because there are likely a couple of months of supply in transit and in warehouses right now. Story 128. Makes a mess all over the place, cleans up a small amount and says, "Look at me cleaning up this mess. I'm so great." Story 129. Nothing has changed. He claims inflation is down because of it and that he removed Biden's unconstitutional tariffs, saving the entire world in the process. Story 130. Prices will not drop. Consumers are paying more, and companies are retaining the additional profits. Lower tariffs serve only corporations while consumers continue to pay more. Story 131. Another randomly selected U-turn that he expects to be praised for. Story 132. I have no idea. It depends on his mood, and that is the whole problem. Story 133. Trump will continue to fuck things up in imaginative, unforeseen ways while claiming the National Guard is needed to stop immigrants from eating all the nation's cats and dogs. Story 134. If I lived in the United States, I would often have bananas with cocoa and coffee for breakfast and beef for lunch. Story 135. Prices will stay the same. Is corrupt greed nowadays. Story 136. He's not stupid. He realized after the last election a couple of weeks ago that grocery prices are voters' main issue right now. He sees he's losing on that, so he's going to lower tariffs to try to bring down prices so people will think he did it. Many of his Make America Great Again base will lap that up even though it is a lie. He is the one who made prices worse with his earlier tariffs. Hopefully enough people will see that he lied and is having to backtrack because it did not work as many, if not all, experts warned would happen with the tariffs. What an ass he is. Story 137. I do not understand why companies would lower prices when people already pay the current price. Story 138. My one brain cell is trying to figure out whether this means my morning coffee will soon cost more than my car payment. Story 139. Products we do not manufacture should never have been subject to tariffs. We can only hope the Supreme Court of the United States strikes down the rest. Story 140. One of my brain cells is trying to figure out how this affects the price of my avocado toast, and it is not going well. Story 141. The coffee, chocolate, and banana measures are a backpedal from an ill-conceived, poorly thought-out universal declarative statement. You cannot make in America those products. The beef is the outlier and clearly illustrates the actual point of this economic nonsense. It is about paying favors to patrons, donors, friends, and interests that serve the international oligarchy. Shutting down the United States government, starving Americans, and doing nothing to improve their material conditions, while simultaneously assigning a $40 billion bailout to the Argentine failed libertarian state and importing more of its beef, says it all. Even Canadian beef. About 3/4 comes from provinces aligned with former President Donald Trump, led by figures such as Danielle Smith in Alberta, who talk about independence from the Canadian Federation. Story 142. Bananas were 69 cents each. After tariffs were removed, the new low price is 67 cents. Story 143. As a supermarket employee, I do not expect these prices to come down for weeks or even months. Prices rise faster than they fall. For example, bananas were $0.49 per pound about 6 months ago. They then increased to $0.59 and are currently $0.64. These prices are unlikely to drop soon because it will take time for the underlying costs to fall. Story 144. American farmers do not compete in coffee, bananas, or cocoa. The beef tariff should remain in effect. He should double the beef tariff, not eliminate it. Story 145. Prices drop slightly in retail stores and do not change in coffee shops. Story 146. The same old story. Chaos, memes, and conspiracy theories illustrated with graphics created in Microsoft Paint. Story 147. Gas station stickers were effective. Where did they all go? Story 148. He is trying to get ahead of the Supreme Court decision in hopes this will persuade some to vote against him. His tariffs are illegal and a power grab. If anything, they should be reviewed and approved by Congress before enactment. Story 149. He is transactional. Whoever complains next will get his attention. Story 150. They have just admitted that tariffs directly cause prices for these products to spike. This is a kleptocracy. The private equity firm run by the Commerce Secretary's sons is actively buying up tariff refund rights for 20 to 30 cents per dollar. Billions will likely be made from these insider deals. Story 151. Wait 5 or so years to really see the damage. Isn't that what we are all waiting for with the tariffs happening now? Story 152. So he admitted that tariffs raise the prices of goods, and Americans pay for them. I thought we didn't want to buy beef from abroad. Aren't they trying to sell it overseas? Story 153. Companies will report record profits because they did not lower prices during the holiday season and because tariffs were removed. The 50% sale on Amazon is likely still 10 to 20% higher than the full price last year. Story 154. Grocery chain shareholders expect more profit, not less. Story 155. He is such a scumbag. He started this mess and now he is trying to dig himself out. But it's too late. Asshole. Story 156. Nothing changes in the long term. It is just more political theater while prices keep doing whatever they want. Story 157. I think the beef farmers will not be too happy. That is a group that overwhelmingly voted for Make America Great Again. Story 158. When a government intervenes in agricultural issues, chain effects always follow. Prices, exporters who are either satisfied or upset, and intense political discussions. I believe that any decision about such basic products affects ordinary people more than major players. Story 159. He will raise them as soon as the Supreme Court rules in his favor. He is trying to show them that he will lower them if the court rules for him. Story 160. Just another policy flip. Expect more chaos down the line. Story 161. Operation Southern Spear will accidentally or incompetently blow a freighter carrying all those goods out of the water. Ship owners and insurance companies will refuse to transport cargo to the United States of America until the military withdraws. Prices rise and coffee runs out. G.D. Vance becomes president and pardons Trump. After a week of claiming chicory is just as good as coffee, his administration collapses under the weight of caffeine withdrawal. Colombia comes to our rescue with a mass airlift and distribution of life-giving bean juice. American productivity recovers, and fourth quarter profits are saved. Story 162. He declares success, saying he fixed the problem the Democrats caused. The media ignores that it is a problem Trump caused and that it is not, in fact, fixed because things will not return to how they were, let alone become better. His followers celebrate that their God King saved them from the filthy Democrats. He wins a third term and America tries to invade Canada. 10 years later, after a horrible occupation and after America has bled all of its money, they withdraw from Canada, declare victory, and the billionaires finish buying the rest of America from Americans. Story 163. It may reduce the price slightly, but other tariffs also affect the prices of those items. Story 164. What will happen next? Beef prices will not drop significantly. Story 165. I feel like it does not matter because tariffs will change repeatedly and unpredictably. Story 166. The real question is, with tariffs on coffee dropped, will Starbucks lower the prices of its various coffee beverages? I think not, because people are used to paying that and the line is still long every day when I drive by. Story 167. TACO is his nickname. I think that despite his sincere wish to see those people suffer, he will have to backpedal on more of the tariff nonsense. He may not, because he usually doubles down even on bad ideas. Story 168. I think he will not go through with any tariffs, to be honest. He is just using the news to pump and dump the market so that he and his friends can make more money. Story 169. So it basically proves that his tariffs raised prices. Story 170. Everything he does is a distraction from the Epstein list. Story 171. I went to Sam's Club yesterday, and they had a 40-ounce bag of Starbucks Verona Blend on sale for $14. They were almost all gone, so I picked up 2 bags because I thought it was a good deal. Story 172. Hopefully my 401k retirement plan will keep growing like it has since he returned to the White House. During his first term in office, it doubled. Story 173. Why is he removing tariffs if tariffs do not increase prices and are not a tax paid for by Americans? Story 174. What will happen next? Let's see. The only thing that keeps happening is that his stupidity increases. Story 175. Prices will fall, similar to how Donald Trump criticized Bill Clinton. Story 176. Prices remain the same because we are already accustomed to them. Companies simply pocket the extra cash. Story 177. He will claim prices are at a 6-month low and parade around the Oval Office with his pants off. Story 178. The next morning we will have mocha chocolate coffee and banana pancakes, and we will have steak for dinner. Story 179. You can tell the negative people on here do not truly understand how politics work. All the price hikes you are seeing were already heading that direction under Clinton. Red and blue, Democrats and Republicans, are all just people who cannot work in the real world and do not care about your money. Stop crying about Trump. It is literally all of them. Story 180. He will find other distractions to postpone the inevitable release of his atrocities. Story 181. Tariffs are not paid by people, so I guess we will just collect less revenue. Story 182. These are essential crops, so I think it is a good move. What do you all think? Story 183. I miss when this subreddit was not focused on American political opinion posts. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.